Hey friendo, Steve here, and welcome back to my Impact Wrestling review show. We're on the road to Bound for Glory. We are bound to the road for glory, or something. Anyways, we got another episode of Impact Wrestling this week. It was actually a pretty entertaining one. I actually like this week. This week was good. It opened up with Moose and Stephan Bonner. Of course, last week, they invaded American Top Team's facility late at night, broke into their trophy case and stole a bunch of title belts. Why they weren't arrested, I don't know. There is an eyewitness on the scene. This is pro wrestling. This is Impact. We also saw American Top Team all show up outside. They love doing like the little backs, like loading dock area where people come in through the back way. They love showing that at the beginning of every week. See who's actually showing up this week on Impact. It was actually announced today, or in this episode last night, that Taryn Terrell actually is not going to be Bound for Glory. She's done with Impact Wrestling. They didn't have her under contract apparently, so she's gone now. That's just happening. She's a major part of the upcoming women's match. Taryn Terrell, she's just gone. There you go. Anyways, we kicked things off with this is sort of a continuation from last week when Chris Adonis attacked Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact they call him, and so they actually had a match to kick off Impact, and it was a decent match. It was a Chris Adonis Johnny Mundo match. It was what it was. Adonis was laying down the SmackDown with his power, and Mundo was able to get the win, though, with his spinning elbow thing. I forget what Starship Pain is. I forget if that's what this is. He's got a lot of cool moves. The guy is all over the place. He's got a bunch of great moves. Anyways, he did like a weird, crazy off-the-top turnbuckle spin elbow thing onto Chris Adonis, and he picked up the win. Afterwards, Eli Drake wearing all white. Like he looked like he was going to, I don't know, he looked like he should have a Cuban cigar, and he's hanging out in Havana, Cuba or something. I don't know. He was all dressed in all like a Sunday best. He shows up, starts beating down Johnny Mundo. They team up on Johnny Mundo after Mundo ripped Eli Drake's all of his clothes off. Basically, he just had his chonies on. He just had his underwear on. Then Garza Jr. comes in after Chris Adonis and Eli Drake got the upper hand on Johnny Mundo. Garza Jr. showed up with a steel chair. Him and Johnny Mundo hug in the middle of the ring. That's good. I like when people hug. Next up, we're in AAA. We're at the Hard Rock Arena in Cancun for some AAA. And this was a continuation of the James Storm, EC3, Eddie Edwards versus AAA, Fantasma, Tejano, and Pagano. So they had a match, but it was a fatal five-way. It was all those guys I just mentioned, but without Pagano. And it was a fatal five-way, so it was every man for themselves. And at certain times, James Storm was kind of colluding with Tejano, who he's supposed to hate. They're all supposed to be on the same page, and they're not. They're all yelling at each other. I don't know why they'd book a fatal five-way. Something tells me that, Impact goes over there and says, hey, it'd be great if we can have a six-man tag match. And AAA's like, okay. And then the last minute, they probably change it. Yeah, we're going to do a fatal five-way. That makes more sense. And then Impact's like, okay, I guess we're stuck with that then. Because afterwards, they had, who is it? Tejano picked up the win on EC3. Afterwards, they did a backstage thing where the three Impact guys were yelling at each other for not being on the same page. And I'm like, well, it's a fatal five-way. Nobody's supposed to be on the same page. I don't really get what the point of that was. But again, as I've said on this show before, it's kind of cool to see other promotions, their production, their deal, their matches, but starring the Impact players that we have known, have we come to grow to love. Oh man, this show is as big a mess as the Impact show itself. Anyways, I thought it was kind of cool because we got to see some AAA wrestling. Next up, we go then to Tijuana, Mexico, where the Crash is, and OVE is there, and they're going to go try to talk to Konnan, and this was just an excuse to showcase their match in the Crash. I guess they had another match in the Crash, and they're saying because they've got their 51-50 match against LAX coming up at Bound for Glory, they said, we're going to go talk to Konnan and let him touch the titles one last time. Doesn't make a lick of sense. Don't know why. But anyways, somebody goes to Konnan and says, hey, there's some gringos out here to see you. And he says, it's OVE. Tell them that they can talk to me once they have had a match tonight in the Crash and they put the titles up. And if they win, I'll talk to them. OVE, for some reason, agree to do this. I understand they're like the faces. They're ready to fight it in a moment's notice. I think that's great. But still, excuse me, I'm uploading today's daily episode. But good for them. Again, it let us see a Crash match, again, from a different location. Thought it was kind of cool. But let's see here. Then we saw the EC3, Eddie Edwards and James Storm all yelling at each other backstage at AAA. But then we see it cuts to Jim Cornette and Dan Lambert, American Top Team, all in Jim Cornette's office. They're all yelling at each other over what Moose and Stephen Bonner did. Cornette really wasn't in. That's like the only time Cornette was in this episode. Next up, out comes Andrew Everett to take on Desmond Xavier. Andrew Everett came out with Trevor Lee and Caleb Conley, all dressed up like Trevor Lee. I like this. It's like a Cult of Trevor Lee type thing. He says something like, we are all Trevor or something like that. I don't know. It's hilarious. I love Trevor Lee. He's like the best thing going about Impact right now. But anyways, Desmond Xavier takes on Andrew Everett. He ends up going over. This is a really cool match. Desmond Xavier did like this, like he does like a couple backflips, and then he lands a kick on Andrew Everett, and that's how he picked up the pin. At one point, Trevor Lee gets up on the apron, starts yelling at Desmond Xavier, drops an F-bomb. They have to bleep it out. That was cool. I like when people say rude words like that. So it was a cool match. It was a good X Division match. It was cool. I hope Desmond Xavier is going to be in whatever Bound for Glory X Division match they're going to have. Next up, we actually saw a video package of Trevor Lee in Tijuana. I like it. He's got a fanny pack, but it's like slung over his shoulder, and then he has his title slung over the other one. And he's just yelling about the fact that his X Division title match isn't being promoted on their posters and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. After that, we saw the actual OVE title match in the Crash. It was cool. It had a different feel from even like AAA, which is also in Mexico. This felt more, it's a little smaller. It was kind of cooler. It felt more like, remember like NXT would tape their house shows? Like when Samoa Joe beat Finn Balor, I think, and they would show highlights from it. It kind of had that feel to it. It has kind of a smaller, grittier feel to it. I thought it was cool. Evidently, one of the dudes in OVE, I still don't know which one's Jake and which one's Dave. I think it's Jake and Dave. One of the guys, the blonde one, might have had a bag loss or something because he was literally just wearing like slacks, like a dress shirt, and then like a vest. If that's just how he wrestles sometimes, it's really cool. Like he looked like a badass. But yeah, and the other guy had his gear on, so they weren't trying to match. I think he just lost his luggage. That's happened before. And the latest being in the Elite, they were missing their gear from when they went to England, or the one a week ago. Anyways, then we're back. Oh, they won their match, of course. They weren't going to job out the Impact titles just yet. Moose and Stephen Bonner looking through all the trophies they stole from the American Top Team. Next up, Grado comes out. Him and Joe Park have been having this thing where Joe Park is his sports manager, and he's been skimming off the top from Grado. It feels like I missed a week, I think, because this escalated very quickly. Grado gets in the ring. He calls out Joe Park, and he says, "You've been stealing from me. This is your trial. I'm going to be judge, jury, and executioner. You've been stealing from me." And then Joe Park admits to it, and then says, "But I'm the man who has your visa." And Grado says, "If you're a man at all, you'd give that to me." And then Joe Park says, "How about this? Instead, we're going to have a match at Bound for Glory. And if you win, you get to keep your visa. If you lose, you get to leave, or you have to leave forever. And, oh, by the way," and Grado hastily signs a contract and says, "You didn't look at the details. This is going to be a Monsters Ball match, and you're going to be fighting my brother, Abyss." Joseph Park is Abyss. And so that freaks Grado out. I swear I missed like the middle act of this. Because last I saw, Grado was just kind of like, oh, this is kind of strange. You know, he's got a lot of, Joe Park is taking some of my money. I don't know what the impetus is for Joe Park to go heel on Grado, though. Just because Grado called him out for stealing, Joe Park admitted to it. I don't know why. I mean, it's fine. It's cool. I like both these guys. I think, this match should be a lot of fun. I'm just saying they went from A to like Z without really exploring, B through the letter before Z, which I think is why. I don't know. Anyways, I mean, he could have had more of a build. Next up, let's see here. Oh, one cool thing about when Joe Park turned heel, because he said, listen up, son, if it wasn't for the visa, you wouldn't be in the U.S. And as he sort of changed his tone to sort of indicate his heel turn, they did like a vertigo shot with the camera, which is where you like move in, but you zoom out and it changes like the depth of the depth perception, whatever it is, the depth of field. Like, no, let's focus. Anyways, he's kind of cool. Like, I was like, oh, that's a decent bit of TV directing right there. Who's directing this stuff? I'll say it again. Impact's production is kind of impressive when you think about the fact that they film like an entire 3 months of programming in the span of like a week, like in the Impact Zone, and then they have to piece together everything for that span of time. That's actually kind of impressive, and they do a pretty good job of keeping it, going, like keeping a through line there. Anyways, after that, Grado was in his car, and then the sinister minister James Mitchell shows up, and he says, "We're gonna take you to hell," and then Grado runs off comically. So I don't know if this is gonna be like a comical match or a hardcore match or what. Anyways, after that, I should have mentioned OVE. I guess after that it was OVE versus Black Diamond and Black Danger. That's who they put their titles up against. And they ended up winning. There were some cool bits to this match, man. There were some really neat moments here. Black Diamond or Danger, whichever one. Chris comes running at him. One of the Chris brother, the blonde guy, comes running at him, and that dude like does the thing where he flips him up like this. His buddy was hanging out behind him on the top turnbuckle, and then launches off that as he flips the Chris brother and like spears him over. It was a really cool move. I was like, wow, that's really neat. The Chris brothers did get the win with a spike tombstone, though. That was kind of cool, but it was like a double stomp spike. It was like one guy had one of the Black Diamond or Danger guys up for a tombstone. The other Chris brother came off the top and like did kind of a double stomp or like a kick down onto the guy as he delivered his. It was cool. It was really neat. I liked it. It was cool. It was kind of like the Meltzer driver thing the Young Bucks do, but not quite. Anyways, American Top Team. This next segment I thought should have been the go home segment. It should have been the last segment because American Top Team is in the ring. They kick Jeremy Borash out. Dan Lambert, the head of American Top Team, cuts this really, really great promo about how he's like the biggest wrestling fan in the world, and he has this bag, and he starts taking out all this amazing wrestling memorabilia. He had like Bruno Sammartino's first belt. He had Legion of Doom's first championship title. He had Ric Flair's first championship tag team title. He had all sorts of really cool stuff in there. I was like, holy crap, that's really neat that he did that. And it was one of those things where it was a heel making a good point about stuff. And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. Like he was like, I'm a huge fan of pro wrestling, and all you people have it wrong, and you guys don't know what you're talking about. And he says, but I just want what's best for Lashley. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a face thing to say. I was kind of on his side at that point. And on top of that, like he says, all these guys work really hard for their trophies and their belts. And then Moose and Stephen Bonner just go in there and steal them. And I was like, that's a really good point. And then Moose and Stephen Bonner come out, and they've got all the titles and stuff. They end up getting laid out, their butts kicked by American Top Team, including Lashley. So yeah, it was kind of cool. I liked it. But next was Konnan, and he's hanging out in his like practice ring, I think, at the crash there. But he's got like the dancing girls with him again. Wherever he goes, he's got dancing girls with him. I mean, that's cool and everything. Who wouldn't want that? OVE says, look, we just came back. We want our pay. We want to get paid, Konnan. And Konnan said, I just said that if you win, you'd get to talk to me. Nobody said anything about getting paid. I was like, whoa, what the heck, man? That's rude. What are you doing there, Konnan? Not paying people? Then let's see here. Oh, then OVE got jumped by like a bunch of the Crash guys. Not too bad though. They were good. Konnan said, "Enjoy the titles for now. You're gonna lose them at Bound for Glory." And then we had like a quick segment of Global Forge, but all it said was go to the website to see more. I don't know. It was focusing on the fact that everybody gets hurt practicing for pro wrestling. And finally, we had Taya versus Rosemary in our main event. Decent. It was what it was. Taya is not the most athletic girl in the world, but she's decent. Like, her character work is really good. Rosemary's good. I really like Rosemary. She's really good. Taya dominated basically the entire match, though. She ended up winning, and then afterwards, she was about to drop Rosemary with Road to Valhalla, and Rosemary got the mist at Taya. She sprayed the mist at Taya, and then Rosemary challenged Taya to what I think is the first blood match at Bound for Glory. She said, "We're gonna paint the walls with your blood." Taya was super freaked out and left. So it was kind of like Taya won, but then Rosemary got the upper hand at the end, and then challenged her to a match that Taya probably wants no part of, and so she'll probably pick up the win at Bound for Glory. I'm thinking maybe not. Rosemary's just been eating a lot of sort of losses lately in general, so I'm thinking that they're going to give her the win there, but who knows? I don't know what Johnny Mundo's status is like, but I know him and Taya, they're either engaged or married. I forget which. And so I imagine they're sort of tied to each other in terms of when they're going. So it wouldn't surprise me if Johnny Mundo loses at Bound for Glory and then he's gone. I don't know how long he's around, but I know he's sort of he's got other obligations, other places. So, although Lucha Underground's done with, so who knows? So yeah, anyways, that's it. That was Impact. Entertaining enough episode. Had some things that kind of had me curious, but otherwise, I don't know. It was fairly entertaining. They announced they keep on talking about Alberto coming back at Bound for Glory, so that's good. Anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.